This is Dead Serious, a show about short horror stories worthy of discussion. I'm Dead Pallid, star athlete on the Cleveland Rockers. That's a sports team, isn't it? Anyway, today we're taking a look at Not Your Average Spooky Cartridge by Parmesan. This is part of the Pokepasta Challenge, and let's get right into it. I have two main hobbies, Pokemon and fanworks. I absolutely love seeing what people can do. Seeing people do art and fan animations is wonderful, but being able to play games created by other people brings a whole new level of wonder to me. Downloading shit like this is really easy online, but getting a physical copy is an enchanted sword in a dragon's treasure pile. I know it's a really oddly specific niche hobby I have, but give me some slack. Everyone has one interest that is only popular in small circles. So far, the tone of this story is written in such a way as to sound realistic but performative, in the same way that when you're on Facebook and you're trying to, impress people and get likes and get comments and everything, there's a performative quality that you put on, but you're still being yourself at the end of the day. That's a good tone to strike, a nice balance to strike between being performative and being realistic. But let's press on. Also, with the recent rise of Pokemon Go, my local Facebook group has been far more active. As an active member and a self-proclaimed expert on these fan works, I get a haunted cartridge every year or so. Most of these are shitty Pokemon Black remakes, but some I get something far more fun, but sometimes I get something more fun. This can either be an oddity or a really well-designed game. In that regard, one cartridge always sticks out to me. Okay, so it's important to note that this story was written with a word limit in mind, but now, it's just on its own, so it should be rewritten to be suitable for whatever purposes it's trying to accomplish. I feel that this paragraph isn't really giving us enough details, and maybe it could be spread out to even, multiple paragraphs, citing examples and really digging deep to give us some background and some context. But let's press on. Like usual procedure, someone by the name of Jeff sent me a message asking me if I could look at an odd Gameboy Advance cartridge. I graciously accepted the cartridge quickly with little to no thought, like a common whore for Pokemon that I usually am. I think the word usually is kind of unnecessary in that sentence. Then I promptly went to Serebii forums and forgot about it for a while. Honestly, I can't remember how long it took to get to my house. Eventually, a fairly plain envelope with sloppy handwriting on it arrived. The way that that's phrased could be a lot tighter. Eventually, a fairly plain envelope with sloppy handwriting on it arrived. I think it should be eventually I don't know, that something about that isn't working. If you're a grammar Nazi, tell me why that isn't working, but it's not. At this point, my expectations weren't very high, but I figured why wouldn't I try it at this point? So I opened the package and found a plain copy of Pokemon Fire Red with a freaking ruby cartridge casing. I got a modded Gameboy Advance SP and started playing it. The game loaded and there was already a save file. Not wanting to start another Pokemon game, I already had 3 to keep track of, I just figured I'd have a look around and get back to bigger and better games. I think that this is a common thing for Pokemon fans, that they'll have multiple games running, multiple runs running at one time. That's a nice little detail. Anyway, pressing on. I found myself inside a home with no real memorable details. I exited the home and found myself in a city area. I wandered for a bit, finding most other doors being broken or unenterable, while other open routes were blocked by invisible objects. Shitty design for an open world, in my opinion. But I kept going on since nothing had happened yet. Nothing has happened yet. I think it should be had. Otherwise, I wandered on what seemed to be a forced path down some streets. After a few minutes, I reached what seemed to be an end of a maze of a street of... come on. I can read. I swear to God I can read. I reached what seemed to be an end of the maze of streets and found one sign that just said, "Go." After seeing the sign, I just wandered around for a bit longer until I got bored and turned it off. One thing to watch out for, and I'm super guilty of this myself, is not using the word I too much. I found myself, I exited the home, I wandered, then a sentence starts out with shitty design, but I kept going on. Otherwise, I wandered on, I reached what seemed, I wandered. So it's focusing on I a lot, and that gets repetitious, and whether you consciously or unconsciously notice that that's happening, it does kind of dull your eyes. Now, there's less of a problem there when you're reading it, because people have these tendencies to talk this way. The written word is very different than the spoken word, and a lot of the times creepypastas are designed to be spoken. Ashcan horror is supposed to be a spoken thing a lot of the times. It's supposed to be performative, and it's supposed to be conversational. So it's less of a problem than it would be in traditional writing, but do be aware of that kind of fatigue that can set in from that. And also there's this crutch word of wandered. I don't think you necessarily need to consult a thesaurus and use a bunch of different synonyms for wandered, but I think you got to be careful about how you phrase things again before you get that fatigue from reading it. For the next few days, I had that feeling that I'd been there and seen that town before, but I could not remember where from. I did a bunch of things in the following few days. I caught up on the latest X, Y, and Z episodes, played another hacked cartridge, took a walk and played Pokemon Go, and even appraised some of my trading cards. However, no matter what I did, I could not remember where I've seen that town. I think it should be I'd seen that. I don't know, man. I always feel unequipped to talk about grammar problems because I'm fucking illiterate. It was not until I was showering and thinking about the town that it hit me. The area was not from a video game. It was a rough recreation of my neighborhood. I knew what I needed to do. I needed to find out what was that sign's location. I drew myself a crude map, grabbed a water bottle or two, and plenty of snacks in case I got hungry, and headed into the wilderness of my neighborhood. I know this might be a nitpick, but grabbed a water bottle or two. Maybe you mean a bottle of water or two? Because I think of a water bottle as being a plastic reusable bottle as opposed to the disposable kind, which is a bottle of water versus a water bottle. You know what I mean? Anyway, we're getting to the crux of what the story is now. That this is a Pale Luna story. A Pale Luna-like, if you will. It's using that skeleton. And when I read that initially in judging these stories, I really like the way that works. I like that a story is using this. It's kind of underutilized material. But for once, I think the technical problems of writing a story actually got in the way for me. And that normally doesn't happen. The good thing is that this is something that benefits from proofreading and rough drafts, and giving advice in those areas is not my forte. But those problems did get in the way of what the story's concept is for me, and that's why it didn't place in the top 3 for me. Even though I really like the story, conceptually, I think the execution is definitely off. So anyway, pressing on. As I followed the map, my mind was racing. What could it be? Treasure? I never get the chance to do anything really cool, so it was a special event. When I was only a block away, my legs trembled with excitement. In all honesty, my expectations did not seem completely logical, but it was exciting for me. What ended up what I ended up finding was nothing close to what I expected. It didn't scare me. It didn't make me jump with joy. I approached the spot where the sign was in the game. Just a burnt out candle, a few bouquets of flower, and a Pikachu plushie. I just froze when I saw this. I sat on the curb for about 15 minutes with just a piece of my mind. Then solemnly walked home. When I got home, I tried to message Jeff about the game, but his Facebook has been memorialized in the past few days. On the page, I found a link to a news article with the following headline: Man hit by car and killed while playing Pokemon Go. Now, I don't know if I need to tell Parmesan this, the person who wrote this story, or not, but I think whether Parmesan knows it or not, everyone in the comments is going to echo the same sentiment. The beginning of the story is so bland. It doesn't have character, and it has these grammar problems, the fatigue problems I was mentioning. But the ending it hits it out of the park. It really does. And the ending really caught me off guard and surprised me because of those problems. I think you would benefit, Parmesan, quite a bit by putting yourself more into this. And I think that it's a temptation to have more restraint and say, no, I'm not going to write myself into this story, and I'm not going to talk, about these boring details of my life. But those things are actually going to be what makes this story special and sets it apart and gets people interested to read, or at least gets me interested to read, in the kind of audience that we attract and the kind of friends and circles that we've developed here in the Ashcan School and everything. We want to hear those things. We want to know all of your geeky Pokemon shit. We want to hear more about your conversations on the Serebii forum. I think that this story could be longer, could be expanded. Take your time with this kind of story, because that really is a 10 out of 10 ending. It's just not a 10 out of 10 beginning. And without something there at the beginning to really catch our interest, and without getting a lot of personality there at the beginning, it's hard to get to that end. So thank you for submitting this story. I was definitely conflicted when considering this story. It didn't make it because of those problems, but goddamn, that is a good ending. It's topical. It uses that Pale Luna format of game mirroring life mirroring game. And then it also has like the been drowned elements in it. It's like got so much shit going on and it's all working together. I feel like there could be more foreshadowing to begin with. Maybe go through some of the paces of like, it's a rough layout of my neighborhood. So what would that entail? What are the features of your neighborhood and how are they mirrored in the game? Things like this. This is such a nice skeleton. It's like you're starting at the tippy toes and the tippy toes are just skeleton and it's bare bones until you get to the end and then you just have a head. It's like a bare skeleton with a human head oh my god, I'm losing it. Anyway, thank you for submitting this story. Please help Parmesan leave feedback. Tell me if you agree or disagree with my assessment of this story. And let's get on to our sponsor of the day. Today's sponsor is Sister Princess. Sister Princess, a 26-episode hentai minus sex scenes.